Russell Westbrook is now a member of the Denver Nuggets, something both he and Jokic were pushing for as soon as the Clippers made him available. First thought on this is that this is a great move, as the name Russell Westbrook carries incredible weight. But then after your second glance, you have thought about it more, and then question how good this move actually is. Well, I have my take on this ready for you all in this week's episode of In Case You Missed It, my weekly recap. In this offseason, I have been recapping all the moves, rumors, and much more, and giving my takes on it. This week, we also got the in-season tournament groups, which we will be discussing. Alright, back to the Nuggets' new player. It is no secret that Westbrook is a shell of himself, but the narrative that I have heard claiming he is awful and unplayable for contenders is just not at all the reality. On both LA teams, Russ was forced to play off the ball on teams that have no off-ball movement incorporated in their offense, which is why he was unsuccessful. Not to mention, he was playing alongside extremely ball-dominant players, which is not ideal for a player like Russ. If you are unaware of Nikola Jokic's nature as a player, he is a willing passer that would rather have 30 assists in a game than score. Jokic also loves playing with athletic players that know how to cut. Westbrook's fit alongside him is going to be perfect, as he can play an off-the-ball role simply by cutting and finishing at the rim. Westbrook also deserves more credit as a defender, which he has excelled at the past few seasons, as his athleticism, combined with his strength, makes him a pest. I see Westbrook thriving with the Nuggets, as he is going to fill the Bruce Brown role that the Nuggets were desperately lacking last year, whether he be starting or coming off the bench. My issue with the Nuggets, though, has nothing to do with Westbrook and everything to do with the lack of adding budget but good 3-and-D shooting guards to replace Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. The Nuggets were never going to retain Pope given his market, but not replacing him is going to be detrimental to this team. The bench was a negative last year, especially on the perimeter, and they will be replacing the role of KCP with one of those unproductive bench players. I am at a loss for what the Nuggets expect to happen next year, as every team in the West got better this offseason, and they didn't even get through the West last year. Sure, you have the arguable best player in the league, but that does not mean anything in today's NBA. We still await the signing of Tyus Jones, who is the best player remaining in free agency, but we got some decent signings this week outside of Westbrook. Cam Payne went to the Knicks, and as a Suns fan, seeing him and Bridges back together warms my heart. Seth Curry re-signed with the Hornets, and Sam Hauser signed an extension in Boston. The biggest signing of the week, in my opinion, though, was easily the Gary Trent Jr. signing. He is heading to the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Bucks just added the best wide-open catch-and-shoot three-point shooter in the NBA. And the last time he was in a situation where he was playing with a perennial superstar were his first few seasons in the league with Dame in Portland. Since then, Trent has developed his offensive game exponentially, specifically his self-creation. Pairing him in the backcourt next to Dame and replacing Malik Beasley means more offensive consistency and slightly better defense. The defense from him will be determined during the season, but having him next to Giannis and Dame is incredible and much needed. During the Bucks' struggles this year, consistency was a key factor in the issues, and Gary Trent will provide consistency, and signing him on a veteran minimum deal is an absolute steal. A-plus move for the Bucks. Unfortunately, the Bucks still seem like the third best team in the Eastern Conference this year. Evan Mobley got his bag this week, which means we saw yet another player get a ginormous contract at a young age. The defensive impact from Mobley is undeniable and is a large part of the reason for that contract. However, the offensive side is where I and others have questions. Mobley's lack of physicality and inability to embrace contact is worrisome, as bigs who cannot do that nor effectively shoot the three struggle in the postseason. One bright side, though, his full potential on offense was on display against the Celtics this postseason, but they also were a team that was vertically challenged at the time, so you do have to factor that into your view on Mobley offensively. Given the age and defensive versatility, I understand the contract, but it is a hefty contract for a player with notable weaknesses that can be exposed for a while. The last thing I need to discuss before talking about the in-season tournament groups is Lauri Markkanen yet again. Lauri Markkanen will be a Golden State Warrior if he agrees to sign a contract extension with them after a trade, as we finally know what it will take for Utah to accept an offer. A deal around Brandon Podziemski and draft capital is the Jazz's asking price, and seemingly only package of acceptance given their franchise. The reason the deal has not been made yet is because the Warriors, specifically Steve Kerr, are adamant on keeping Pod, given the upside they see from him. Shockingly, the Warriors value him more than Jonathan Kuminga now, and are actually more willing to part ways with Kuminga than Pod. Now, I will agree. What we have seen from Brandon Podziemski is remarkable, but at the same time, you have Stephen Wardell Curry, one of the greatest players ever on a team that is by no means good enough to compete. And the only thing holding you back is a second-year player. Now, if the draft capital amount is what is holding you back, then yeah, I get it. As I have gone on the record to say that mortgaging your future for one player is something I strongly oppose. So if that is your reasoning for not getting Lauri Markkanen, you're good. But if it is because you don't want to add Podominski to a trade to land you a player that fits your system, provides the height you desperately need, and is the all-star caliber player your generational player needs, then I don't know what to tell you other than the fact that Steph Curry will not be bringing you any more championships. All right, so they announced the NBA groups. They did the draw, and we got all 6 groups. So I'm going to be talking about each of them, breaking them down, and tell you who's going to win them. Timberwolves, Clippers, Kings, Rockets, and Blazers in West Group A. Immediately tell you the Blazers will not be winning this. And the Rockets, they are a sneaky team. The Clippers won't be winning it. So I look at the Timberwolves, Kings, and Rockets. All right, the Timberwolves are obviously the favorite to win this group, because the Timberwolves, they got Anthony Edwards. They were the 3 seed last year. They made it to the Western Conference Finals. They're obviously the favorite. But one thing I do question with the Timberwolves is them in a 1-game series, because I don't know. I have my hesitance about everybody else on that team. Like Rudy Gobert, he could get exposed. They could not be ready for that. And voila, he gets exposed game 1. Since in a playoff setting, he's not good. Anthony Edwards and Cat's always hurt. Anthony Edwards is great, but yeah, there's a lot of inconsistencies with that team. The Rockets are a young and up-and-coming team, but I don't think they're ready yet, but I wouldn't be surprised. So I honestly am going to pick the Sacramento Kings to win this group, because the Sacramento Kings have 2 of the best clutch players in the NBA, and we already know how much that NBA Cup means to the Kings team, since they were very vocal about wanting to win the thing last year. And I think the same's going to hold true. They got a bunch of competitors. DeMar DeRozan, De'Aaron Fox, Malik Monk. All 3 of those players are big moment players, and I'm going to take them to win. In West Group B, got the Oklahoma City Thunder, Phoenix Suns, Los Angeles Lakers, and the Utah Jazz and Spurs. Immediately, I'm going to say that the Jazz are not going to win this. And as a Suns fan, it hurts, but they're probably not going to win either, because they're just not great. And I look at the Thunder, Lakers, Spurs. Lakers are the defending champions, obviously. They won it last year. LeBron in a 1-game thing is going to be hard to beat, but they do have to get there. They're not the best team on paper here. I think the Thunder are going to beat every single one of these teams. Now, the Spurs are sneaky. Wouldn't be surprised if the Spurs were like a wild card team, since 4 teams from each conference do go. But the Spurs, they're my wild card in this. I think I would rank it the Thunder, and then the Spurs and Lakers are tied with the same probability. But yeah, obviously the Thunder are the pick here. There's not really don't overthink that. West Group C is the most competitive group in the entire thing out of all 6, looking at it. Got the Nuggets, Mavericks, Pelicans, Warriors, and the Memphis Grizzlies. All 5 of these teams could be playoff teams, so it's not so easy to eliminate them. The Warriors, if they add Lauri Markkanen, well, this is a different story. There's a different outlook on this. But as of right now, they don't have Lauri Markkanen. So I'm going to get rid of the Warriors just because Nuggets, they have a good big. The Mavericks have decent bigs. The Pelicans have a good size. And the Grizzlies have decent size. I mean, the Nuggets are obviously the favorite. I don't think the Nuggets are going to win this, though, because their depth is terrible. They don't have a starting shooting guard. Sure, they added Russell Westbrook, as we talked about, but the Nuggets are worrisome. I think they'll finish second in this group. I think they're going to beat the Mavericks, Pelicans, and Warriors. I'm worried about the Grizzlies with them, because the Grizzlies, they're fully healthy. They're going to be a team to watch out for. The Mavericks, Luka, Kyrie, they're basically running everything back. But this is also the beginning of the year. I think they're going to have chemistry issues with Klay Thompson by this time. So I don't think it's a perfect fit yet. And that's why I don't think the Mavericks will win. Pelicans, they still don't have a starting center. There's a lot of question marks on their roster. So I don't think they'll win this group. And the Warriors obviously won't. So it's between the Nuggets and Grizzlies. I'm going to lean Grizzlies just because they were the 13 seed last year. They're going to try and make a statement here early. The East is pretty easy for me. East Group A, we got the Knicks, Magic, Sixers, Nets, and Hornets. The Nets and Hornets are easily cut out. It's between the Knicks, Magic, and 76ers. I'm going to lean Knicks here just because the Knicks are a bunch of dogs. I'm not going to overthink that. And I'm not going to overthink taking the Bucks in Group B. The Bucks Pacers, that's obviously the headline matchup. And there's also the Heat and Bucks. That's another headliner. But I just think the Bucks are just better than those teams. I think Giannis and Dame finally worked everything out on the court, like chemistry-wise. So I expect them to have a decent year. I think they'll win that. The Raptors and Pistons, we don't even need to discuss. And then Group C in the East, you got the Celtics, Cavs, Bulls, Hawks, and Wizards. Obviously, the Wizards are going to win that, right? I'm just kidding. It's going to be the Celtics. And that's all I got for y'all. This is another episode in case you missed it. Next week, who knows what we'll be talking about. Maybe Lauri Markkanen will be traded. Maybe there will be more trades. Or maybe I will be making mock trades just for the pure joy of it. But yeah, this has been In Case You Missed It. Y'all stay safe. Have a good one. You want to see my point guards ranking, since I ranked the top 15 point guards in the NBA and it made me lose a lot of sleep, click on the video on the screen, since it was a very hard list to make.